Set? All right, we'll open the meeting at 6 o'clock. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Turpinning. McCanny.
Here.
Wendell. Van Selfty. Here. Keikos.
Here.
Hutton. Here. Cullis.
Here. I will make a motion to excuse Daniel Wendell. I've not heard from Mr. Turpin's coming in the door. So a motion to excuse Daniel Wendell. Is there
I'll make a
support?
motion to excuse Daniel Wendell for tonight's meeting.
Well, I made the motion, just give me support. So motion by Cullis, support by Keikos. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda changes. We'll go for approval of the agenda. Chair would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
Motion by McCanny, was that Van Sant?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Motion by McCanny, support by Van Selfty. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the minutes from February 12th of 2026. Are there any additions or deletions? None appearing. Chair would entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
Motion by Keikos, is there support?
I'll second it.
By Van Selfty. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our statement of purpose. The mission of the Holly Historic District Commission is to safeguard the heritage of the village of Holly by preserving the historic district in the village that reflects the elements of the village's history, architecture, archaeology, engineering, or culture. The goal of the Commission's work is to stabilize and improve the property values in the historic districts and the surrounding areas, foster civic beauty, strengthen the local economy, and promote the use of the historic districts for the education, pleasure, and welfare of the citizens of Holly. Next, we will move on to public comment. Members of the public can address the Commission once recognized by the chairperson. Comments are limited to a maximum of 4 minutes for items not on the agenda. The Commission may extend this time by up to an additional 4 minutes by a majority vote for items on the agenda. Comments may be made after the Commission discussion prior to the Commission vote. Prior to addressing the Commission, members of the public shall state their name and address for the record. Either of you want to make public comment? No? Okay.
I like you all.
Thank you.
All right, that will take us into old business, the status of the HDC guidelines. Unfortunately, we have different people in this chair from meeting to meeting, so I don't know if you're gonna know the answers to this.
I'm filling in for Kurt Nitschke as he's in a conference today, so.
No, I understand, but I'm just saying, the HDC guidelines, Stacy, do you know, have they been moved to the council?
We're still, no, you were going to, I thought, have a meeting, everybody was going to get together and you were going to decide whether they're okay.
So I had sent an email to Tim Price, and I believe you, about, you didn't get it? Regarding scheduling those meetings?
No.
Okay, so Tim was here, but he just walked out. So Jeremy, just so you know, the commission had decided we want to have a meeting with the commission where we would travel downtown to talk about the downtown and to have a chance to look at, it's kind of a workshop, and to look at the guidelines that we have produced and go through that. We have a couple new members on the commission.
So are you looking to do that in place of an HDC meeting or an additional?
Well, it can be done as an additional workshop, and then after the workshop, when we come back to the next meeting, we can vote and and we should be ready to move stuff through.
Okay, I will pass that along.
Now, well, Mr. Price is back in here, so we can ask him. At one point, it was, no, you can't walk back up. I was talking about the meeting that the commission had agreed that the workshop we would have.
Yes, like walking downtown.
Yeah, that part. So at one point it was, somebody said, when did I want to do the meeting? And I said, I felt that it needed to be set up from your office because your guys' schedules are harder than ours.
Oh, well, I mean, typically it would be, as you guys said, the agenda would be based on your schedule. I would figure that, I assume that you would do it as a workshop right before a meeting. So rather than, if you're meeting at 6 for the meeting, you would meet at like 5 in the downtown.
Is that feasible for people?
I don't know what schedules are for everyone, or do it on a different day you could do as well.
Mr. McCanny, I see you,
It would depend on the day, basically. I could probably get here by 4:30, be ready by 5.
so,
It's probably
okay,
doable.
so do we want to do that then next month before the meeting?
So next month, the meeting is on April 14th.
I'm sorry?
Then, next month, the meeting is on April 14th. That works for me.
Is it on April 14th? Because I thought that's the day of council.
April 9th.
Oh, April 9th, sorry, yeah,
Should be the 9th, yep.
the 9th, yeah. Okay,
That
That still
should
works for
work for me,
yeah.
pending unforeseen circumstances at work, but
I would assume that we would be starting a little late here, 'cause that's not a lot of time
You're right, it is April
to go downtown and
Yeah. So, one concern was brought up, if we have that meeting down there at 5, that may push the starting of this meeting to 6:30. Just from a standpoint of travel time.
And we would just have to notice it appropriately, if that's the case. So, but.
Does that make sense?
I would, ideally, we'd still be able to try to start at 6 and just make sure we, don't leave down there too, leave there at 5:45 or so.
Well, what's everybody's thoughts? I'd rather post it that way than to end up late. Is everybody in agreeance with that?
Yeah, so what time do it start downtown?
So it'll be 5 o'clock.
Where are you gonna meet?
Well, I was just gonna say, because we don't know what the weather's like, we could meet at Township Hall to start. That's right downtown.
So Stacy, when you notice it, I think in the February agenda, I did something similar where I wrote that council's meeting beforehand in order to go to, Public Works to do a tour there. You can just write it very similar as such and just update the date. We have to make sure when we notice that we notice on the new time, because it's gonna go different than the, meeting schedule.
Right, so we can meet at 5 o'clock at Township Hall, that's 102 Civic Drive. And then we can do that, okay? Okay, then we'll just have to make sure we let Daniel know on that. Okay, everybody's good on that?
Yes.
yep.
Okay. And that first part will be classified as a workshop, and then the meeting will take over here. Okay.
So is
No.
that for the HDC guidelines we're doing this for?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Well, it's a combination of,
1 and 2 kind of.
yeah. So number 2 under old business is this issue of the ongoing compliance issues with downtown buildings. We've really put the village in an awkward position because we have businesses that have come here that have had to change the way they do things in order to meet compliance. We have 2 businesses downtown, and I know, Mr. Price, this isn't your issue because you've not been here that long. One of them, the complaint has been on the books for almost 3 years. The other one started the day of installation. I had Kurt Nitschke down there as it was happening. And I know that you said Mr. Watson has said other buildings have them. What other buildings did and got away with at the time, we can't be responsible for. We missed them if they happened within this 3-year period. To my knowledge, I wasn't aware of it, or it would have been brought up. But to those businesses that we have made to adhere to these rules, which includes the buildings on both sides of the building in question and the buildings on both corners of the other building in question. That's a concern I have, because we're gonna find ourselves in a position where you let him do it. We just had an issue with Andy's place where they had put the wrong kind of windows and they didn't put the brickwork on the top. And the question was, can we just move ahead and call it okay? And in that meeting, I made it very clear that we can't call it okay, because when the next building comes before us, whatever that building is in the place of the old arcade, they're gonna be asked to meet the requirements. And you would have this glaring opportunity to go, you didn't make them do it. And that's where we run into trouble. The downtown district, it's part of the issue. Now, I know there's a change of ownership within that building, and Ron Campbell has told us that that's not the issue. We can still do it. It's unfortunate that the village didn't do it. In the case of that building, I'd love to see us work with the DDA. I know they have facade grants for downtown, and that might help that individual comply. But those windows, particularly on that building, are a glaring difference. In regards to the other building, I never can remember that gentleman's last name, but this isn't the first time for him, which means he knew better. And the buildings on both sides of him were made to comply. Randy Redmond on the one, and the building that's known as Ziggy's Ice Cream. Both of those, Mr. Watson, you remember when they were here, and they had to comply and meet all the requirements. And they made a mistake on the oval window and they had to go back and fix it. So I don't know if you need a vote of confidence from the commission. I'm not sure what direction you want us to take, but I think we need to address those two.
Sure, and I think we're misguided too, right? Because I don't know the direction you want us to take.
Well, I
The
think
problem that we have as administration is the precedent was set, right? And we have that same dilemma that you guys face here, that when they come to us, they say those exact same words. Well, why did the building next door not have to do it? It does, it's not.
Having said that, we're very clear that, like, anything that we see now, like, from the time that I've started, like, this is the standard, and you have to go to HTC, you have to follow the rules. The hard ones are the ones that are in the past.
But those standards have been part of this commission. I've been here I've been here 9 years. No, I'm sorry. I've been on this longer than I've been supervisor. I haven't been the chair. I became the chair in 17. That standard has been here when they came here. And we did make an alteration several years back where we gave administration approval for signs and some of the smaller things. But in the case of the building on the corner, that was brought up right when it happened. On the case of this other building, it was brought up. He was standing right there. Kurt Nitschke was there with me. And I think the issue was Kurt wasn't sure where to move, but it should have been a stop order right then. That particular individual's been through this process once before. We had to stop and he had to take siding off the building and do some things to comply. And that's a concern that I have. Mr. Watson, when you say you're not sure what the board wants to do, I think we've been making that pretty clear ever since last summer when it happened.
And we've I mean, even when, we know, obviously we know the direction moving forward, and from that point, again, my issue was when and I've brought this up before, is when I went out there, I was like, yeah, obviously, that doesn't fit. And then I started walking around the downtown, I was like, and 80% of the other windows here are vinyl windows as well that have got.
Okay, it's not 80%.
I went around there, and there is quite a majority, I would say, for sure, have been replaced. Not with the same white historic ones. And so the question is, how far do I go back? And, you know, to answer, I know moving forward what to do, but going back, and so what I offered to the commission before was, I would like to present this with a carrot rather than a stick, because it's really hard for me to go down there and, you know, and do code enforcement ever, and I'd rather look at facade grants and things and say, here's an opportunity for you to replace it back to historic standards and meet it, and we expect you to do that, rather than just say, you know, those energy efficient windows that you've installed, you need to go back to the 1800 style that was previously there.
Well, I don't know that you use wording of 1800.
Yeah, I don't know, yeah.
The issue is windows versus vinyl.
Yeah.
And in the case of the building opposite Ziggy's, that was brought up while you were here, the day it was happening. So I have a real issue with that one. That has nothing to do with we didn't know. We knew from that day. The building on the other corner, which is before you got here, this commission brought it up 3 years ago. And as I had told you when you and I in April met, there were 6 months in between some of our meetings and this stuff fell off the plate. Again, that's not your fault, but it is a glaring difference. And not only are we charged with protecting the historic elements of the downtown, so is the DDA. That's part of their responsibility too. That's why I say perhaps something can be worked out with that building on the corner that has a different owner from when it happened. The other building, to me, is a blatant issue, because it was brought up right as it was happening. That was when you were here, Mr. Nitschke was there. And that should have been stopped or written at the time.
Well, and I will say that we've been trying to be proactive with it. I mean, I was the one that I saw Balcony Row Antiques being worked on, the exterior down there, and I was the one that went, hey, like, get code enforcement over here right now. It was like on a Friday. I was like, I need to see their permit and all that. They haven't gone in front of you guys yet. We did that. Chief Watts and I were in the booth this week and saying, before you touch any of this exterior, because, you know, we said, you didn't get the paint approved beforehand, it doesn't meet some of these criteria. Before you do any more work in the exterior, it has to go before HDC.
So the Moose Lodge got stopped, Jeremy, what was it, 3-4 years ago when they did the facade on the front? And that wasn't me that stopped them, because Jerry Walker made the phone call in my office and he said, hey, we got an issue. So these other businesses have been stopped. They have been made to follow through. Why this guy opposite Ziggy's, it dumbfounds me.
And we've been more proactive with code enforcement. We actually have people, because as everyone in Holly knows, that what happens is people just do Friday and Saturday, you know, in order to avoid it. And so we now have code enforcement officers out on Friday and Saturday, you know, looking for the ladders and the tarps and everything out.
Jerry and I used to joke about the fact the dumpsters show up on Friday morning, and the whole new roof is done by Sunday.
Yeah.
Or you caught somebody taking windows out. That's how you got that one leaded glass window on it.
We try.
So we know it happens, but
Are there grants available currently?
There are facade grants, and there's facade grants not only from the DDA. The DDA has a limited number they can do per year and limited amount, but through Oakland County, there are several, and just, there are grants available all over, especially for historic preservation. Ron Campbell and I met last week, actually, and we talked about some of this and ways that, you know, we can, you know, try to leverage more of these. But again, it can't just be me looking at this. It has to be, you know, the commission and other, you know, other people as well, because we just, you know, I wrote 2 grants last week, but it's to replace our lead lines, service lines in the community. And for me, I have to prioritize that one above some of these other ones.
I was gonna say, who would apply for the grants? Like,
So
the owners, the store owners?
it could be the store owners, it depends on what the grant is. If it is just for a facade, it would be like through the DDA, a homeowner would apply for it through the DDA. If it's a community-wide one for like historic preservation, we could apply for it. I would say that, make sure that if it is community one, individual residents or commissions should not be applying. Just let us know and we'll do it as a team together. But
well, I was going to say it should be either the village or the DDA.
Yep. Yeah.
Because the DDA, they are charged with historic preservation. And some of the grants require matching funds, which their TIF funds would be perfect for that kind of a project. I did want to correct you. I could be wrong. I don't think there's any grants out there for homeowners.
I think I just missed one.
So there are,
There are tax credits.
well, there's also, I mean, Oakland County has a program for homeowners, and then this is not, if you actually need, repairs, and, you know, usually it's for things like,
Yeah, that's for window replacement, roof, and it's
roof
low.
piping, a lot of things, but basically the Oakland County will pay for it, and rather than, and it'll be a zero interest, they'll take care of the payments, it'll be zero interest, and what it is, it's just a lien on the property, and you don't have to pay it back until the property sells, or you can pay it back and have that lien removed, but essentially they'll pay for it, it'll be
And
just a lien on the property.
those are low income. They're based on income.
Yeah, some of them are, but Oakland County offers it, what's that?
Oh,
Sorry. I think they've opened it up a lot more, because we've actually gotten it for other people in the community that have needed it for just the replace the lateral lead from the main to their house, and it was 60 grand, and they just couldn't afford it, and they weren't low income, they were just lower income.
Oh.
And they were able to get it, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. I know the township actually puts money into that fund each year, so.
Now, real quick, I was doing some research on different windows that, they look historic. They are actually energy efficient, and there are several companies out there who do their best to make historic replicas that are. Would that be something that we could tie into that grant?
Yes, and the way that.
It's a win-win for everybody.
Are they wood windows or are they vinyl?
They're wood.
Yeah, no, that meets the criteria. That's different than a vinyl window. And those would work. Those are covered by the Secretary of Interior. If it was anything that's outside the Secretary of Interior, then we have to pass through this commission, it has to be agreed, has to go to the village council, and it has to be put into as part of our ordinance. Or what's the other word I'm looking for? Ordinance and like building codes that would allow that product and so forth. There's a process where this,
They need to receive a variance, basically, or, right, for.
It's just building materials.
yeah,
Approved building materials.
there you go. Yeah, so that can't be done. But if the windows you're talking about are,
Yeah, they're made to look like they're
Are-
lead glass and the whole,
yeah,
everything, that they're historical
Those are-
replicas
those are the windows-
that are energy efficient.
those are the windows we ordered for the addition on our house. Now, we didn't have to because it was an addition, but we wanted it to tie into the house. And if we have some brand names, it might not be bad to add those names into the guide that we're doing. The book that we've put together, if you can get that information to us.
Absolutely.
Okay. So where do you want us to leave these two buildings tonight? Do you want a motion to move forward on it? I say that because Mr. Watson said, we need direction from, you said earlier, you need direction from us.
More just an understanding. Because I think you guys have to also understand that we can't go back on somebody from 10 years ago that did some.
We're not asking you to, this was,
So that's where I'm asking for that direction. Where do we start and say, this building, did it 10 years ago, this building did it 3 years ago, so we're gonna do the enforcement on the building that did it 3 years ago, but not 10 years ago. I struggle with that a little bit because I think we're setting precedent, right? So,
no, we've never asked you to do that. We've asked you for the two buildings, the one on the corner, and we brought it up when it happened. Unfortunately, the village did or didn't move. I don't know whether letters were sent or what happened. And then the other one is the building by Ziggy's, because that was brought up the day it happened. Mr. Nitschke had it, and we've brought it up, I think, at almost every meeting since then.
Can we use that date as a baseline? That
Yeah.
way we can give Mr.
Those two
Watson
those
the
two
date that
buildings and
he's
anything going-
requesting, as well as,
Those two buildings and
I can
anything
tell
going.
you too, the new administration versus previous administration, there was some gray areas on where we could enforce and where we couldn't enforce. Tim is very strict, very blunt, very direct with, everybody's held to the same standard, makes our jobs very easy. Previous administration, it wasn't that way, where it was, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but it was more micromanaged, and everything had to be through that office before enforcement action took place. Here, the direction's very clear. If somebody, whether a business or a resident, isn't following the rules, we educate, and then, unfortunately.
So the position of this commission should be those two buildings, because have been
I'll
brought
talk
up.
to Kurt, he'll be in on Tuesday.
And I don't have an issue with trying to work out something with the DDA for the older building, the 3-year-old one. And that might work because the bulb could have
You gotta
gotten
remember
dropped.
that once
But the
we-
second building is under this administration.
And that's fine. The second thing that's gonna happen though, I was in court yesterday and had to testify. So the judge is gonna ask if the defendant has good counsel. They're gonna bring up the fact that precedent and history and, so we have to be very,
No, I understand that. I
there's
deal
a
with
legal
court too.
process beyond this once the ticket's issued, right? And getting the judge to have buy-in, the biggest thing is consistency, right? And right now there isn't consistency. So we need to
I-
form a consistent path forward, show the courts that we're doing consistency, and then we get that buy-in. I can tell you, when I walk into the courtroom, they know that we're very strict and consistent with our enforcement. Now, with the downtown and the historic, we haven't been, and we only.
We have been for the 10 years I've been here.
Here at this commission, but then it goes to administration and then enforcement, and that's where it kind of falls off a little bit, right? I don't disagree that the commission has been very steadfast with it. The difference is, unfortunately, my supervisors and the administration, may give me direction elsewhere.
So,
Which I've cleared up now that that direction is very transparent and obvious, where everybody's held to the same standard, which makes our job very easy moving forward. So I can tell you, the process since Tim's been here, everybody has gone through the process with either an application, administrative approval, or they've gone to the board. There's even been some questions where I didn't even know, and I brought them to the board, and I felt embarrassed by the way the board treated my response as, you gave the applicant, you don't even know why they're here, they shouldn't be here, when, I brought them here and requested them.
I think that only happened once.
Well, but it happened, right? So
Well,
I need you guys to also support administration with the backing of, we appreciate you guys coming here, however, you do not fall within the district and you're not necessary. And I think our wording and the way that we work together moving forward will help create that consistent form. Because there are some buildings that we show that are maybe in the district, maybe not historic value. So as administration, my gut feeling was, let's let the commission make that ruling, and then they can present that back to administration, and we'll move forward based on your guys' recommendation. So it kind of got muddled up there a little bit, and now we got people, wanting refunds, and it just,
well, you say that plural. It's only one time that happened that I know of.
well, the other time we didn't send them, because I think you and I talked on the phone.
Right.
So,
so going forward, just because I know that we've had this conversation a few times since I've been on this commission, I think going forward, our first step is to notify everybody that is registered in the historic district. We mentioned sending out postcards and just saying, you
That-
are a part of the historic district. And financially, maybe we can't send out a copy of the guidelines, but maybe we can do like a QR code where we're like, if you want to see the guidelines and the ordinances that you are responsible for knowing before you do any improvements on your property, please visit this site or come to the village offices, and we would be happy to tell you what those are before you make changes. So I think step one is just notifying the property owners that they are a part of the historic district.
Well, and this building
And
in
I'm
Battle Alley, he already knows.
Which-
He's been here
right.
before.
But to start with, like, if you do go into court, you have to establish, like you said, credibility and precedence, and, you have to, your first step is to put notice to people that they are part of the commission, or the historic district. And then, if there is a violation, typically you go and give them a warning and an opportunity to fix whatever they did to their property.
every time.
Every time. And then, if you give them a deadline, right? I don't know what the deadline is.
We
Like,
always extend it.
30 days.
Whatever they say, we usually extend, because
Right.
that gives us also credibility at the court.
Right.
They asked for 30, we gave them 60.
right, like, we're working with them. We're allowing them the opportunity to fix it, because it is financial. I mean, these things are financial. And then you go back and you inspect it, and you say, oh, it's still not fixed. We gave 60 days to fix it, why is it still not fixed? You document that, you say, I expect you to have it fixed within 14 days, we're being lenient. And if it's not fixed in 14 days, then expect to receive an ordinance ticket. And then, once it gets to the court, I mean, it's not just they pay a fine, then it goes to the judge, because it's not an assessed fine, right? When it's an ordinance issue, the judge assesses the fine, it's not just like a speeding ticket where it's, you go and pay it, you go before
It
the
depends
judge.
on how the ticket's written. If it's written as a misdemeanor or a civil infraction.
Right,
So,
okay.
there are different avenues that we would take. Most of the tickets we're writing now are civil infraction where the judge can, set a, specific criteria, right?
Right.
The windows need to be replaced on X amount of days.
Right.
Whereas a municipal infraction or a misdemeanor, is a fine. And usually it's a $50 fine first offense. So
Right.
it doesn't give a hammer per se, when we write those types of tickets. So now we're writing the civil infraction, which gives, administration a little bit more leeway on getting those requests granted, to meet the expectation of the commission.
So just to simplify and not like get too far down the road, our first step is let's just produce some sort of notice to the people that are registered as part of the historic district and notify them.
I understand what you're saying and the importance of it, but anyone that's doing any exterior work in the village regardless, that would be under the purview of this, should be submitting a building permit anyways. They
Right.
should have to do it, and part of that building permit, something that we've changed, is that there is a box in there that says,
Two.
is this, two places, you have to verify whether you're not in a historic district. And there's hyperlink on it that you can click that shows all the addresses within the historic district, so you can verify whether or not your house is on the historic district, if there's any question. And this is changes that we've made even since we've been here to make sure, so like, although we can notify them, I think maybe, the problem is, we notify them today, next week 5 houses sell, or 5 buildings sell, like, well, how are we tracking to notify new owners? So maybe we make some kind of,
Plus the cost with the mailings, is pretty expensive, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just being transparent, village is in a deficit, right? Tim and I have made several administrative changes, particularly with the permit. We have a redundant system now on the front page. It is the applicant's responsibility to check, are you historic or are you not? On the very last page of the application, which is a 3-page application for the building permit, is the checks and balances where I have to verify that it's not historic and sign and date it. So we've made leaps and bounds compared to several years ago of what that application looked like. Really, and this is in every community, there are certain individuals that will seek forgiveness instead of permission. And it doesn't matter if they're historic or not. That's just the way, unfortunately, society is. But we have made significant changes to the application process with checks and balances, along with hyperlinks that take you right to the page to show all the property listings that are in the district that you can very easily just scroll down, to verify that.
So look at us, we already accomplished notice, check. What was the next thing that I said that we needed to do? We need to start like going and warning people once we see it happen.
And really, that's all eyes, right? Because 2 eyes here, Kurt's 2 eyes, right? But we have several eyes here, so my phone is always on usually. If you see something, shoot me a text. 104 is doing something, right? We can go out and investigate. Unfortunately, we just can't have boots on the ground and everywhere.
but we do now, more so. We have Friday, Saturday, we have code enforcement officers now patrolling, specifically looking for this kind of activity, where in the past we've never done it. And one thing I just need to clarify, you said that we're in a deficit. Historically, we operated in a deficit. We're balanced now. There's a little bit difference, clarification on that.
Thank you.
So.
Well, my budget session's on Monday, so I haven't been educated yet, I guess.
So what do you need from us for those 2 buildings? Do you need,
No, well, I'll touch base with Kurt. I
Okay.
think it's really, him and I will communicate, and I'll see where he's at in the process. I'm not gonna speak on him tonight, because I'm uneducated on him, right? And I
Right.
don't want to put Kurt in this particular position. He's out of town right now at a conference, so, I have a note here. I follow up with Kurt on Tuesday.
If
We'll
if you'd like to do that and meet with me on that one, we can.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we can meet with the new DDA director and talk about that other building, I think that other building, it's the benefit to the downtown, because that's not only the front of the building, but it's the side of the building that's in Battle Alley. And
And I think I know which building you're talking about. He did submit.
the old art building,
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
where the art shop was, right across from the coffee shop.
Oh, that wasn't the building I was thinking of. Okay, I understand.
Okay. All right. Then next we go to the presentation. Ron called me, and he wasn't able to make it. He sent me the presentation. We've got the new members. We've been through it before. I think we can walk through the slides and talk about it.
Okay.
I'll take us through there. And then he will be here not in April, but in May. There are 3 trainings. This is one. He'll be here to do 2 in May. He told me that we could put him down for that, but because he can't be here in April. So, did the commission want to move? I know we're being taped, but does it hurt if we move to the chairs over there so we can?
No,
see?
I would recommend it.
And I'll change the tape to show the slides instead. So that on the tape, they're only seeing the slides, not the camera, so
Okay.
go ahead.
So everybody can move. So Jackie, have you been through these trainings already? Yeah, I thought you had. So for Andrew and for Jan, these will be first times. Basically, what this shows us is just to help you get a better understanding of what it is we're here to accomplish and kind of the do's and don'ts, what qualifies and doesn't.
For anyone that's talking out here, so they can hear.
Okay. If you can move me to the next screen. Well, Commissioners' roles and responsibilities, overview and history of historic preservation in the United States, legal foundation, what makes something historic, levels of designation, legal challenges, and benefits of historic preservation.
So in the notes here,
Pardon?
carry on, sir.
Oh, okay. So the HDC is a regulatory body of the village that reviews exterior work within the historic district that was established by the village council as a member of the Historic District Commission appointed by the village council. Your job is to ensure that community resources are protected, to ensure due process in a fair and equitably is applied to every applicant. And, next slide. Note the Secretary of the Interior standards. I trust you've been given a book for both of you on the Secretary of the Interior standards?
Yes, I was.
Okay. We are also supposed to know the local ordinances and state enabling law, be familiar with architectural styles and their distinctive features. That's something you'll pick up along the way. We have several of those right here in this town. They would be things like Greek Revival. We have several Italianate, Federalist. We've got several of those buildings too. Know the local ordinance and state enabling law. Be familiar with the architectural styles, I said that. Be familiar with Holly's history. Know the Open Meetings Act and conduct the meetings accordingly. So we try to stay along those lines too. Next slide, please. Avoid even the appearance of conflict of interest and act accordingly. Follow the rules and procedures during the entire review process. Prepare yourself for the public meeting by reviewing the applications. You can go out and drive by the property. We prefer that you don't engage with people because sometimes people say you said something that you didn't say or they misinterpret what you say. You can let them know you're here to do that and just tell them you're not supposed to engage with them on the issue. Mr. McCanny and I on a couple of occasions have gone out to houses and most people are pretty friendly about it. We did have one lady upset with us one time, but we wouldn't engage with her and she was mad that she had to come here, but it worked out in the end. That was one of those houses, by the way, that's non-contributing. And my thought was while we were sitting here having that conversation, if you'd like to get together and go over that list, we could actually put a note by those addresses. Okay. I know of a couple of houses. The one right next to Dick Roselle on College.
Why don't we put that on one of the future
Okay, I think before, that's fine. Before that happens, I think I should probably take the list and drive around town.
I think everybody should, so they're also familiar with the properties.
Yeah, okay. Prepare yourself for public meeting by reviewing the applications. Document all proceedings, motions, and decisions. You'll note that the way we operate here is when we make a motion, it's different than your public meetings because we're following Secretary of the Interior standards. And when we approve either a motion to proceed or a certificate of appropriateness, that has to be determined as we go through. But when the motion's made, Mr. McCanny has always been the person to read them. He's got the book, and we go right down and we pick the numbers so that we're being consistent. We've been doing that pretty much ever since I became the chair. So we do that. Notify the applicant in writing citing specific reasons of denial or approval. Mr. Watson, we've talked about this a couple of times before because it is called a certificate of appropriateness and we should be issuing that. I don't know if we've had a chance to create one of those, but.
I believe we have, yes.
Pardon?
I believe we have.
Okay, thank you. Overview of preservation in the United States. Historic preservation in Oakland County. 198 state registered historic sites. We have 72 national registered. 2 are pending. I don't know if those have been sealed yet because I don't know how old this presentation is. 2 national landmark sites and 1 natural landmark. You'll see in that picture, that's the barn that's now out at the 4-H fair, used to sit over on Dixie Highway. They moved that one. There's our depot in that picture. I'm not sure what the other, oh, that little gas station in the middle, that's in, let me see if I can see that name. Yeah, that's in Highland on Milford Road there when you go through. Yep, right on the corner. Next slide. That is in Dearborn. And that's an old picture of Mount Vernon. Mount Vernon is owned by the Women's Auxiliary. Down there, they bought the property back. It took them 10 or 12 years to come up with the money, and they've owned it ever since and restored it. They just opened a new museum off to the edge of the property that's opening this year, and they've done a lot of work on the house. That's an old parking garage. National Historic Preservation Act was 1966, signed by Lyndon Johnson. That was actually a project that Lady Bird did in restoring homes. What the National Preservation Act of 1966 did, it declared that historic preservation was in the public interest. It set federal policy for preserving national heritage. It charges federal agencies with responsible stewardship under Section 106 review. It established the National Register of Historic Places. It also established the federal and state and federal tribal partnership, SHPO and the mandated qualified SHPO officers. Local Districts Public Act 169 of 1970. Historic preservation as a public purpose, purpose of ordinance. Historic preservation is declared to be a public purpose, and the legislative body of a local unit may by ordinance regulate the construction, addition, alteration, repair, moving, excavation, and demolition of resources in historic districts within the limits of the local unit. The purpose of the ordinance shall be to do one or more of the following. Safeguard the heritage of local unit by preserving one or more historic districts in the local unit that reflect elements of the unit's history, architecture, archaeology, engineering, or culture. Stabilize and improve property values in each district and the surrounding areas. Foster civic beauty. Strengthen the local economy. Promote the use of historic districts for the education, pleasure, and welfare of the citizens of the local unit and of the state.
And Chair, if you don't mind, that is almost verbatim of our statement of purpose, if you
Yeah,
don't notice.
well, I caught that as I was reading it. A local historic district is a historically significant area that is protected by the Historic District Ordinance. The local unit of government appoints a Historic District Commission to review proposed work to the exterior of the resources in the district to determine the work meets the Secretary of the Interior standards and guidelines for rehabilitation. Designating an area as a local historic district is one of the few ways a community can provide legal protection for its history. Thank you. It's one of the few ways a community can provide legal protection for its historic resources. I only have one hand, correct that. Thanks. The Local Historic Districts Act, Act 18,
Oh, I'm sorry, George, I'm sorry.
provides the legal foundation for the creation of local historic districts. It is a public act that was created to provide the establishment of historic districts, to provide the acquisition of certain resources for historic preservation purposes, and to provide for preservation of historic and non-historic resources within historic districts, to provide for the establishment of a historic district commission, and to provide for the maintenance of publicly owned resources by local units, to provide for certain assessments under certain circumstances, to provide for procedures, and to provide for remedies and penalties. What makes something historic? National Register criteria for evaluation, generally at least 50 years or older, associated with events, activities, or developments important in the history of the native peoples, nation, and or the region. Number 3, associated with the lives of people important to events, activities, and or development. Significant achievements in architecture, engineering, or landscape history. The potential for archaeological finds and the understanding of the past. Levels of designation: the National Register of Historic Places, State Register of Historic Sites, and local historic districts. The nation's official list of buildings, structures, objects, sites, and districts worthy of preservation for their significance in American history, architecture, archaeology, and culture. Under the State Register of Historic Sites, the state's official list of buildings, structures, objects, sites, districts worthy of preservation for their significance in national, state, or local history, architecture, archaeology, and culture. The local official list of buildings for the local historic district, structures, objects, sites, and districts worthy of preservation for their significance in the national, state, or local history, architecture, archaeology, and culture. National Register of Historic Places. Protection is under Section 106 review. Restrictions, Secretary of the Interior standards. Incentives, a 20% tax credit on qualified rehab. State Register of Historic Sites. No protection, no restriction. Incentives, qualifies you to purchase a historic marker. There is within the state of Michigan an additional 5% tax credit for historic rehab that can be added, so they can get a total of 25%. In order to get that, a building would have to go and apply before they start the project. They have to put all their plans down. Michigan, under Governor Snyder, had dropped that because our economy was in trouble at the time and they were trying to save money. And when we got back up and running, the legislature put it back into place, so it exists today. Local historic district protect varies per local community. Restrictions vary per local community, and incentives, well, those are priceless. Property owners' rights versus public rights. Penn Central Station. These are some of the big buildings that have been restored. We have our own train station in Detroit.
That was also the building that caused this to, the initiator of the whole program, is they were gonna knock it down, and this whole system here, they're gonna knock down the building and build a
Yeah.
somebody stepped in and started the whole process of trying to demonstrate that preserving the historical.
Yeah, this is in New York City.
Yeah, that's
They wanted to tear this down so they could put up a high-rise. And she stepped,
that's the
yep,
start of it.
she stepped in and they saved this building under that. Under the New York Landmarks Preservation Commission. I know that Jackie Kennedy started some of this stuff. When she was in the White House, she found that there were, as you walk through the White House, there were rooms that had mismatched chairs, and previous presidents had taken different items from the White House with them when they left, pictures and so forth. She also found that there was a couple of storage areas where some of the old historic stuff had been sitting for years, and she pulled that stuff out. She actually went across the country, and people that had pieces in their collection that came from the White House, she either found ways to buy it back, or many of those people donated it back, and the stuff all became part of the register in the White House, and Congress passed a couple of laws so that that no longer can happen in the White House. Gifts that were given to presidents don't go with the president. You know, you've heard the argument about Trump got the gold airplane. It was a gift to him, but he doesn't get to take it with him. Reagan got a lot of gifts too. They don't get to take them with them. They're given to them in their presidency, but they belong to the American people. And that's what they did with some of these laws to protect this stuff. So as the law work is intended, safeguard the heritage of the local unit by preserving one or more historic districts in local unit that reflect elements of the unit's history, architecture, archaeology, engineering, and culture. Stabilize and improve property values in each district and the surrounding areas. I can tell you there have been studies done and that they have found historic districts, the values of the home are 10 to 15% higher because of those protections. Stabilize and improve property values in each district and the surrounding areas. Foster civic beauty. Strengthen the local economy and promote the use of historic districts for the education, pleasure, and welfare. Another line out of our purpose. One of the things that is important to Holly is, if you see our advertising, I think it's even part of the village's moniker, the historic village of Holly. We promote ourselves that way. We invite people to come out and see our history. So it is important to protect it. Safeguard the heritage of the local unit. That's Mackinac Island. Flint, that was a $30 million project. They rehabbed that building. Qualified rehab in Michigan. I'm trying to remember, well, that was in Lansing. I was gonna say, I've seen that building. It's beautiful to see what they did to it. Stabilize and improve property values. I'm not sure where that's not Holly. Local historic districts and property values in Michigan neighborhoods. If we may have to ask Ron in May, but he can tell you how many historic districts exist in Oakland County. We are not the only one. The 2017 study looked at 2 neighborhoods in 4 communities: Ann Arbor, Bay City, Grand Rapids, and Kalamazoo. Local designation added 6% to 35% value to property values in those designated districts. I can tell you that those are our houses in these pictures. Yep, those are all Holly. I have been through the history. If you ever get a chance to drive through Bay City and drive through down the street from the lumber barons when the shipbuilding was going on, some of those houses are absolutely incredible. Oh, there's our battle alley. I'm not sure where that one was. Almost looked like Franklin. We strengthen the local economy and the heritage and tourism. Most popular hobby in the U.S.?
We got an answer?
Coin collecting. Oh, wait, sorry.
Photography. Nope, it's genealogy. Travel and tourism employed 7.4 million people. Travel and tourism directly contributed $704 billion to the U.S. economy. and generated $113 billion in tax revenue. 78% of all U.S. leisure travelers participate in cultural and heritage activities. That equates to 118.3 million adults. That's a third of the country. I'm not sure what CH stands for, but those tourists stay longer too.
Cultural and heritage.
Pardon?
Cultural and heritage
Cultural and heritage
tourists.
tourists stay longer, 2 to 3 days longer. Culture and heritage tourists spend more, $994 a trip versus $611. I can tell you that's actually true. My wife and I were in Santa Fe, New Mexico for my daughter's wedding, and we stayed 3 extra days to see the town, because when we got there, everything was about the wedding. And then when everybody left after the wedding, my wife and I stayed for 3 more days for that very purpose. 36,000 jobs were created. The statewide economic impact, $11 return for every dollar invested. Where would you allocate money if you wanted to create jobs? Chemical manufacturing, automotive manufacturing, restoration construction. Rehabilitation construction.
That's a softball.
Pardon? Yeah. Well, hey, $1 million equals 11 jobs. It equals more than 11 more jobs than manufacturing chemicals and 8 more than manufacturing vehicle parts. Promote the use of historic districts for the education, pleasure, and welfare. That's our battle alley. National Trust for Historic Preservation.
It was here as well.
That's Brooks. They had their conference here. That was a big deal. They had never been to a city this small before. Ron Campbell and I worked really hard for a couple of years to get that to come out here. That's Rick Campbell from Highland. Brooks Patterson.
That's the end of the slideshow, sir.
That's it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Do you know what country is the second highest in tourism with 94 million people a year?
Well, go ahead and tell us, because the rest of us don't know.
Everybody thought it was Italy.
Everybody
but
thought it was
it's
Italy.
actually
Spain.
Oh, Spain.
France is the
France is number 1, Spain's number 2, the US is number 3.
number 3.
My guess is gonna be Slow Jamistan, but
Your guess was going to be what?
Slow Jamistan.
Oh,
It's good for something.
Jeremy. Thank you for that.
I knew, George, I know you will.
Yep.
I should probably record those when he gives those. There was a lot of, I could hear his voice, but I couldn't make out the words.
What's that?
On the slides, there was a lot of hidden,
Oh,
Is there any chance to have that? You said you have it emailed to you, right?
I have it on a thumb drive.
On a thumb drive? Can
Do you know how to
send-
copy a thumb drive?
I do.
Then we can do it.
That'll work.
Okay.
yeah, that's his
I think it's
presentation
available
he
online,
uses. So.
Oh, speaking of, I have to have that back. That,
So it's kind of cool that
I
we're
got you, George. I
in
got
the
you. I got you.
presentation
Okay.
as Holly, because he uses this for training for all the other
I'll get it to you
places
before.
he has.
when
That's
Ron,
really neat.
when Ron gave it to me, he said, don't
He's on
lose it,
our
so I know when I have.
I got you.
And I told him, I said, oh, good, no pressure.
Member of this council.
Okay, under general business, I don't think we have anything because we took care of the meeting date. Commission and staff comments, I'll start with Mr. Keikos.
I have nothing to add.
Mr. Turpinning.
Nothing right now?
Mr. McCanny?
I'm good.
I'll turn down this way to Miss Vant.
You had
Van Selfie.
Nothing to
Van
add.
Selfie, I had it, doggone
Yeah,
it.
you did. Good job.
And Ms. Hutt,
I do have a question. You had once given us a new, like boundaries for the historic district. Are those in place yet or no?
no, part of the problem with that is Sue Hess did a lot of the work along with Marlo Davidson's daughter. She moved, Denise Davidson. And they did a lot of work on that. And right now, the village has not been able to find that work. That was turned in a binding, I remember seeing it was a black binding about that thick. And each house had a page that had the history on it. So I'm absolutely amazed. This is not the first time I've had it happen. People in Holly do a lot of work. They put this together and they don't keep a copy for themselves. They just turn the whole work over to somebody else. It's happened with a couple of grant applications in the township. I actually had to go to the grantor and say, can I have a copy of our grant? Because I don't know what we said we would do. That was Tony Brinker wrote the grant, gave it to Karen, told her to mail it. Karen mailed it. Tony didn't have a copy. Karen didn't keep a copy. Yeah, it's happened a couple of times. You just shake. I said, how does somebody put that many hours into something and then not keep a copy? But it's happened. So we'll look into it. But we do have, there is a map on a big board somewhere of the proposed additions.
Yeah, I have it right here.
Yep, okay. And we'll see what we can do to get that to move forward again. That being said, I've probably made enough comments tonight. I don't need to make any more. I will look at calling the meeting at 7:02.
Oh, yes. Do you have a pen?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I'm prepared. You coming down?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I went to put it away. I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
It's true.
Jeremy, he stopped last night to give this to me, and as he goes to hand it, he goes, this is the